So rapper Travis Scott and his concert promoters are facing multiple lawsuits tonight after his Astroworld concert turned deadly. Officials say the crowd of 50,000 surged toward the stage as Scott was performing, leaving dozens of concert goers crushed, trampled, and gasping for air. It turned into a mass casualty event, but that didn't stop the concert. Someone even appears to be dancing on top of an emergency vehicle. Here's what Scott said when he seemed to notice what was happening.
What the is that?
So here's what we're learning, that Houston's police chief met with Travis Scott and his head of security before the concert due to public safety concerns. 8 people were killed, more than 300 were treated for medical issues at the venue. Travis Scott says that he is devastated and will cover all funeral costs for the victims who died at his concert. But I want you to check out this video. It's a video promoting the concert, and it shows people jumping fences and moshing. Is this the kind of atmosphere that they were trying to sell? That is the promotional video. This is the first time one of Scott's concerts got out of control. The rapper has faced criminal charges twice for inciting his crowds. Back in 2018, according to the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Scott pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct. Police say he encouraged the concert crowd to rush the stage in a 2017 show in Rogers, Arkansas. And in 2015, the Chicago Tribune reported that Scott pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor reckless conduct charge for urging a Lollapalooza crowd to climb over security barricades. Kyle Green was at Travis Scott concert that became one that became so chaotic. He later fell from a 3rd-story balcony and was left paralyzed. We reached out to Scott's team for comment, but we haven't heard back. Now, Green is now suing Travis Scott. His attorney, Howard Hershenhorn, joins me now. Mr. Hershenhorn, thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining us on this subject. It's terrible and it's very sensitive. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Don. I'm sorry I'm here under these circumstances, but I'm happy to be with you.
Your client was severely injured at a Travis Scott concert. This was back in 2017. So tell us about that and what were you thinking when you saw Friday's concert turn into a mass casualty event?
Yeah, Kyle was severely injured back in April of 2017 at Terminal 5 here in New York City when he was on the 3rd floor balcony of that venue, and Travis was urging, as he always does, urging everybody to push forward and creating the bedlam and mayhem and havoc that he always does. And as Kyle was up front on the 3rd floor balcony, he got pushed by the surging crowd behind him, and unfortunately, he fell what's the equivalent of 3 stories.
Oh.
And Don, after he fell, believe it or not, he was on the ground, and Travis's security team, instead of rendering first aid, his security team actually picked him up. And at that time, he already had a significant fracture of his leg, and he had a neck injury, which would not have caused him paralysis until they picked him up. And not only did they pick him up, but here's Travis on the stage calling for them to bring Kyle to the stage. And so there's video of Travis's people juggling Kyle around, like literally like a sack of potatoes, walking him up toward the front where Travis attempts to give him a ring, and then where they finally take him out and he finally gets the medical care he needed. But by all the jostling that occurred to his neck, which was completely and utterly, they failed to put on a neck brace or a backboard or anything like that, he wound up being severely paralyzed, as you saw in some of those photographs. He has made a somewhat partial recovery on the right side of his body, but the left side remains almost entirely paralyzed.
Well, let me ask you this, and we certainly hope that he makes a full recovery, but in the short time that I have you here, the big question is really, I'm sure you don't want this to happen again, your client as well, to anyone. So what can be done to prevent another tragedy like this, Mr. Hershenhorn?
Well, Travis has to learn from what just occurred. And the truth is, and what's so hard for Kyle about this circumstance, and quite frankly for me as his attorney, what's so hard for us is that he should have already learned. You've already talked, Don, in your introduction about how he was arrested in Chicago, arrested in Arkansas, constantly causing mayhem and disorder and lawlessness. That's his thing, and he's got to stop that. And we would have hoped by virtue of our lawsuit that we brought here in New York that it would have gotten into his head, hey, look, here's a kid that got paralyzed. I got to stop egging the crowd on to the point that they are totally enraged. And as you know, what happened on Friday at the concert at Lollapalooza, he ordered them, he told them, he cajoled them into making the earth shake. And that's when all the reports are that the massive rush was up toward the stage. And as you've seen on video, they're pulling out bodies, and Travis is looking at the bodies, and he's not wondering whether or not these are dead people. The bodies are blue, they're pulling them out, and he's just continuing with his show, literally put himself up on a pedestal, as you've seen, while they're dragging bodies out. And for 40 minutes after they declared it a mass casualty situation, for 40 minutes, Don, he continued to sing and he continued to play the music that he was playing. And that's where all the havoc was wreaked.
Well,
and so we're heartbroken for what happened, but it's so unfortunate. And what makes it even more unfortunate is that he didn't learn his lesson from all these prior concerts where all these other incidents had occurred.
Yeah. Well, we're sorry for what happened to your client and for everyone who's involved in all of these incidents. We appreciate you joining us. And I need to tell our audience, we reached out to Travis Scott's team. We have not heard back from them, but we would want to hear back from them. He's not responded. So